Hi everyone, I'm Azzurra Zappacosta, and this is my Design Society podcast. I'm going to be focusing on George Jensen, the designer and the brand. Let's get into it. Just to start off, I thought I'd mention that I researched very much secondary resources to come up with my information for the content for this podcast. And so that includes media articles, journal articles, publications from their website, press release statements, info on their website, just basic information about the company, and other ones that I'll mention as well. But that's how I researched and gained some information for this podcast. Okay, so today we're going to be examining how the iconic George Jensen brand approaches the design and production process of their items, and then how they also remain relevant today. But in saying that, let me do a little backstory about what George Jensen is and what their big brand is today. So George Jensen is a homewares company, like I mentioned. They sell things from bowls, plates, cutlery, glassware, all the way through to jewelry. So fine pieces like watches, earrings, rings. But now that we know what they sell, let's look at their R&D and so how they research and develop their products to be made and what their stages of production are like as an industrial designer. Okay, so from my understanding and research of what industrial designers would do at George Jensen in the research and development approach, there are three main stages. So the first one is looking back at the historical archives and what the company did in the past to create successful products and the trends that they continue throughout their brand. So it could be things of the material, so stainless steel or silver or glass, depending on what the product is, and looking at how they maintain a timelessness aesthetic to the brand itself and continuing that through new products. They may not look the same, but they might have the same essence in the sense of the style that they're in. So that's the first stage, looking back at what they succeeded in selling specifically. So the next stage is a collaborative innovation. So looking at how the company could expand and collaborate with other external design firms or maybe academic institutions or individuals like celebrity. They could collaborate with a celebrity or a brand in particular, and how they could expand their brand basis and target audience to new people and continue their relevance in the market. So that's another research and development approach. And this last one also links to the one before, which is, so the last stage is user-centered feedback. So user-centered feedback is basically, so the consumer insight is a key driver of the development cycle, and through feedback loops, even research methods, so like surveys, focus groups with individuals or potential clients, the company can gain insight onto how a product would do prior to it going to market. This will allow them to amend any products or improve satisfaction overall of the customer before wasting money on producing it and then having to do this all again if the product fails once it's already at market. So it's very handy to do research with the target clients before it goes to market. Okay, so to move on, let's look at the designer roles and responsibilities that an industrial designer would have in George Jensen, and then later the production process of design developments. So firstly, designer roles and responsibilities. Okay, so as a designer at George Jensen, there's typically three main stages that I understand, from my understanding, that designers go through. So firstly, it is to develop a concept that is aligned with seasonal collectional themes and the overall theme of George Jensen and the style to maintain its timelessness. Secondly, it would create technical specifications for manufacturing and basically a checklist of what you want in the product that can physically be made. And then thirdly is to check with the craftspeople if these technical specifications can be made and the design constraints that may be present. So like in the machinery that's being used to make the product or the materials, what it can and can't do, and the parameters around that. So okay, so for the next part of this, I'm going to talk about how what the product development process is as a designer at George Jensen. And from my understanding, there's around 9 stages as an industrial designer to produce a product. So let's go through them. Okay, so firstly, there is a brief development. So establish parameters based on the market analysis and the brand positioning of the product that you're making, so you can clearly and distinctly know what you're after and what you want to make. Secondly, concept generation, so making multiple iterations and different concepts of the design brief and brainstorming with other people. Third, in an internal review, so with your design committee as a designer, you would select promising directions that you'll want to continue to look into and then continue to develop those even more once you've understand what you like and don't like about the current designs. Fourth stage, prototyping development, so craftspeople can create working models in actual materials, that way you can test how the material reacts, how the material acts, and the overall success of the current prototypes. Fifth stage is design refinement, so multiple iterations of this design and physical prototypes. The sixth stage is costing and production planning, so how are you going to actually make this using manufacturing materials and different processes. Seventh stage is the production setup, so you actually look into what tools you need and start setting up them for large scale production. The eighth stage is quality control establishment, so looking into what the quality control standards are of different regions, countries, states, areas, cities that the product could be sold in, and making sure all of these are met prior to large-scale production, so you don't waste materials and waste money and time, but making sure they're all met and making sure they're all deemed as safe before you go to the production process. The last stage, the ninth stage, is market introduction. So you can launch marketing like materials and stuff and ads online to coordinate with the product that you're launching. And so overall, this product development process, from my opinion, takes around like 12 to 18 months for big pieces or like major pieces in the design. But I also feel like smaller pieces could definitely take less amount of time, but they still need to meet all of these criteria before they go to market for like legality reasons, etc. But yeah, so that's the product development process from my understanding as a designer working at George Jensen. So now let's look at how other brands might do similar things or what they do differently. So the last component of this video is to look at how the brand Alessi, the Italian homewares company, also sells their products and how industrial designers work within that company. So just to briefly summarize, they have a different design style to George Jensen, and it's a bit more playful and experimental compared to George Jensen's more classic Scandinavian look. And designers in Alessi have a different material variety. So whilst Jensen focuses on silver and metals, Alessi works with many other materials, including plastics and ceramics. This allows for more creative freedom for designers and also opens up to a wider customer basis as their target customers are also different. They aim for a more younger and trendy buyers compared to Jensen's more focus on design collectors. And pretty much all of their production processes are the same as George Jensen in terms of making a product and going to market. And the only noticeable difference that I found whilst researching was that Alessi outsources most manufacturing processes, whilst Jensen keeps it more in-house to either reduce costs or maintain exclusivity in that essence. So that's the end of my video. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed.